Good evening and welcome to episode 357 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Khumalo. It's the Thursday edition, I think I said Wednesday, it's the Thursday edition of the Private Property Podcast. And if you join us for the first time, welcome to the show. You're tuned into the only daily property show in South Africa, catering to your property needs. Make sure that you catch up on all the great episodes that you have missed out on across our social media pages right here on Private Property. And to our regular viewers on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, welcome back. You know how we do it. Every single weekday, you and I have an appointment at 7 p.m. where I'm always in conversation with a property expert who helps us navigate our property journey. And it doesn't matter where you are on the property journey, whether you're looking to buy, to build, to sell, to rent, we're certainly here to help you along the way. And talking about helping you along the way, you know that we also have awesome programs every weekday at 8 p.m. that you can tune into right here across Private Property's social media pages. As it is a Thursday, Mbalinoko brings you the Farming Podcast, tackling all things agriculture, and that comes to your screens every Thursdays as well as on Tuesdays. And Mondays and Fridays, you can look forward to Chad, who brings you the Home Shoppers Show, where he always takes us through incredible property that you can find on www.privateproperty.co.za. And on Wednesdays, Esty Claassen brings you the First Time Home Buyers Show. She's always in conversation with people who've not only walked that first time home buying journey, but have gone on to grow their property portfolios from strength to strength. And of course, there's myself, Khumalo, always holding your hand as we make better property decisions. And of course, you can follow myself on Twitter as well as on Instagram at @Zamantungwa_K. Well, one of the great things, that we love doing here on Private Property is running amazing competitions. We've wrapped up one that we've been running for the past few weeks. Do watch out on our social media pages. We are going to be kickstarting a new competition that you can look forward to. And because we love making sure that we always stand a chance of walking away with something, especially as we also build up to the festive season and build up to episode 400. That's going to be coming up in December. So we're quite excited for hitting that 400 mark episode. And we want to make sure that we obviously take you along with this as we get excited and start prepping for that. And this evening, we're going to be looking at something that I'm very excited about, because I like things that look good. I think if anything, I'm very big on making sure that we have not just homes that look good, but also when we want to sell our homes, that will make them look good. We're going to be looking at why sellers and agents should consider home staging. And I'm joined by Vannesa De Villiers, who's the owner at Space Energy Home Staging. Vannesa, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show this evening, Vannesa. I think before we even look at, the benefits that home staging provides the sellers and, of course, agents, let's look at what home staging essentially is. And the benefit of viewers at home may not have a sense of what it is we're talking about. What exactly is home staging?
Thank you very much for that question, because that's actually quite an important one. People in South Africa don't understand the concept, and they don't realize that we are actually in South Africa. It's very big in the States. And home staging is the beautification and the styling and furnishing of empty houses in preparation of show days. So we've got a whole warehouse full of furniture. We choose the furniture to suit the style of the house. We go and place it, and then the agents are able to show the potential buyers what the properties will look like with furniture in it.
And to our viewers at home, I think one of the things that's happening to all three of us, and when I say three, I mean myself, Vannesa, and my colleague behind the scenes, we know that it's rainy season, and some of us, unfortunately, are not having the greatest weather behind the scenes. So if you hear or rather see that our signal is slightly sketchy, it's because of that, so don't be alarmed. I want to let you know, because for a moment there I had lost Vannesa, and I remembered, no, I know that part of the silly rainy seasons does mean that unfortunately our connectivity gets affected. So we do apologize for that if it affects the connection throughout the show. Now, Vannesa, I mean, one of the big things is you highlighted how this is not something that's particularly big or as big in South Africa relative to other markets. I mean, in the States, as you pointed out, it's massive. I mean, to the point where with certain properties, they almost know that part of the home buying journey, or the home selling journey rather, is making sure that you have a staging company, that comes in and they do their job, and it aids in your property getting sold. Perhaps, shed some light for us on how you found home staging aiding in a property selling faster, because I'm sure some people are still not quite understanding, well, got a nice home, maybe all I just need to do is just, clean it up a little bit. How does bringing in professionals to stage that home aid in that property selling faster?
The potential buyers don't want to see the homeowners, the current homeowners living in the property. They want to see themselves in the property. So we depersonalize the property completely. We take away, if it's an occupied staging, we take away any photos. We really make it basically where people can visualize themselves living in the property. And that's why it's very important, because you don't want to walk into a house and see that this is where somebody else lives. You want to see yourself living in there. You want to become one with the unit, with the property, and not know that you're going to be sharing it with somebody.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we underestimate quite a lot, that you don't want to see somebody else's personality. And I think sometimes when we look at our own respective homes, we add so much, character and personal texture to our homes that when somebody comes and views it, they don't want to see that. They really want it to be as pleasing to the eye, but also neutral enough that they're able to see themselves there, as opposed to it being so personal that they struggle to kind of place themselves in that particular property. And of course, I am seeing all the love that we're getting on our social media pages, especially on our Facebook. Polina Nkosi's watching us there. Bongani Queen B Mabunda at Adela Albertine is also watching, sending through those green hearts. And of course, I see some of the love that we're also getting from our viewers. Farana Siddiqui saying, Zama, you're looking fabulous as always. Thank you very much, Farana. Manyana Eva also watching, sending those green hearts, and Buhle Maduna sharing that she's actually been doing her hair today, so she's feeling a bit tired. Of course, finding out how you are doing this evening. One of our regulars, Martha Shinan, is also watching and keeping the conversation going there on our Facebook page. And if you're joining us, we are in conversation with Vannesa De Villiers, who's an owner at Space Energy Home Staging. And we're looking at why sellers and agents should consider home staging. And especially in this market, I think anybody who puts their property up on the market at the moment wants it to sell as quickly as possible and at the price point that they would ideally want it to be listed in, or certainly the price point that they want to have. And Vannesa, I mean, talking of obviously wanting your property to sell fast, what would you say is often the average selling price for a home that is typically staged? Because some people might be like, well, no, I probably just have a normal apartment. I don't think that's something that I need to stage. In your experience, what typically tends to be then the average pricing for properties that do get a home staging company in to assist in them selling their property?
We've had properties from about 700,000, but I would say more from about 1.2 million upwards. And the most expensive one that I have staged was 25 million. So, we also work with the client's budget. So if the 700,000, they think, they don't want to spend that money, we will work with their budget and make it as easy as possible for them so that they can also afford it.
And I think, Vannesa, on that, what advice would you give, especially sellers who are perhaps looking at or considering having a home staging company when it comes to working with the home staging company? Because as you said, I think many of us just aren't familiar with it. And even on the slightly higher end, even at a 1.2, 1.5, or even a 1.8 million mark, people are still not particularly used to it. What advice would you give a seller who's, we'll say, on the fence when it comes to using the services of a professional home staging company?
In the current market, there is just so much stock on the market, and you've got to you've got to differentiate yourself. You've got to be different. People don't go into houses anymore and, on a Sunday afternoon, drive around the neighborhood anymore. They actually look at the photos that's on your website and your competitors, and then they'll decide whether that is the house that they want to go and see. So you've got to set yourself apart from all the houses that are out there. I mean, I know that in Bryanston, I think there's over 2,000 properties that's in the market at the moment. So if the photos don't look good, and that's another thing, they must do professional photos. They can't just take photos with their phone, and because their phones, taking a photo of just a toilet, people don't want to see what the toilet looks like. We all know what a toilet looks like. So they've got to take professional photos, and it must be appealing to the people. There's got to be curb appeal, and it must be inviting. That is the place I want to see, because I can see that there's a flow of the furniture. The houses are all quite open plan, so it's very difficult to place furniture in the open plan areas. I mean, we as professionals, we sometimes have a problem with that. So can you imagine now somebody that doesn't have that, they can actually view and see how the flow of the property will be.
I am in conversation this evening with Vannesa De Villiers, who's the owner at Space Energy Home Staging. And we're looking at why sellers and agents should consider home staging. As we take your questions and comments this evening, I'm going to go to Facebook. Semi Mahlatse, who's also watching. We've got a question coming through from Howard Mugatsane asking, what packages does Vannesa give? And most importantly, what are the costs? Do they charge per square meter or per the type of property? Whether it's a townhouse versus an actual house versus a flat or freehold, and what's the criteria when you enter the house? So I think when I say, take us through how sort of home staging packages typically are put together, because I think one of the things, and when you started this off, you highlighted it, is we're still not particularly familiar with the service offering. And so when we look at home staging and the cost involved and how that cost breakdown typically is, can you take us through how it works?
So I will quote the property per room, and I have got a fixed cost because we did work out when we initially started what the cost would be. We put, like, in a lounge, we will do the lounge suite, a rug, coffee table, TV unit. I've actually got some fake TVs because it's, we don't want to put a TV in the property. A lot of decor. We play a lot with decor just to make it look beautiful. I mean, if you look at my website, you can see we make sure that there's a lot of plants in it. And then there's a fee for that. Then that's for the bigger houses. We'll say that for a lounge, we'll charge, say, 10,000 Rand. For a smaller unit, it can start anything from 5,000 to, say, 7,000 Rand. So we'll charge per room. Then the seller can also decide if they want to stage all the rooms, because it's not necessary to stage all the bedrooms, because the woman of the house is going to buy the property. She normally looks at the living areas, definitely the kitchen, the patio. In South Africa, we live towards the outside, so we must make sure that flow is beautiful, and then definitely the main bedroom. So for a big house, you're looking at, say, from about 30,000 onwards, depending on the amount of rooms, and say for a 2-bedroom unit, we can start anywhere from about 10 to 18,000.
And I think, Vannesa, when we then look at the average selling time, because we are also in the business of wanting to make sure that the property sells at the right price point and as quickly as possible. What do you typically find is the average selling time of a property that is staged, versus one that isn't, where you still have the owner's personal stuff and even personality in the property?
So I could tell you just from my experience is that a lot of clients put their houses on the market and then they're not successful, and then they get us in to come and stage the property for them. My suggestion to them is to remove it off the market for at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks. We will then stage it and then relaunch it at a different price. Make it slightly less so that they can attract more buyers, and they can get a fresh look to the house. It's not the same old house. It's new, it's fresh, and people then go, I'm interested in that house. So I would say that, to give you an idea, the properties that we've staged before was in the region of about, say, that's been empty for 2 months to 6 months. I'd say that in my experience, that those properties, if they're priced correctly, they are sold within 2 weeks.
And that's pretty impressive, right, Vannesa? Because as you were saying, the market right now is flooded with quite a lot of properties, and often when people go on www.privateproperty.co.za, we're looking at the pictures first, before we arrange a viewing, before we arrange anything of any sort. We're not going to chance it and go to a place when the pictures are bad, because there are just other properties in that same space, in that same complex, that look better, that are staged better, that even have better quality pictures. And so all these things count. It's no longer the time and the era where, you would, as you're saying, on Sundays sort of go around and go to different open houses. And so all these extra touches are so crucial when you're looking to sell your property. And I want us to look at then, Vannesa, when in the event where we're looking to use the services of a home staging company, what are some of the key things that we need to consider? Because, as we keep saying, this is the thing we're not particularly used to. So what are the key things that we should be considering when it comes to, procuring the services of a home staging company?
Okay, just to give you an idea, we normally view the house first, purely just because I also want to get the feel of the house and to get the size of the furniture that we're going to be placing in there. You will also notice from our pictures that you'll see on my website that I try and have a personality for the house. So I can stage up to 35 homes, which means that I have got a huge amount of furniture. And, not one house will look the same. Yes, we'll use elements that are the same. And of course, we've got, as interior decorators and designers, we all have a style that we work with. But we try and get the house to have its own identity. If you have sets that you move from one house to the other house, it's the same look over and over and over. And I almost want to say that the houses will have a bit of an identity crisis because they're all looking exactly the same. So that's what we try and do, is not to have the houses look exactly the same. It's very different. Just to go back to your other question, that fee that I told you, that is normally for 6 weeks. The fee that I gave you, the 30,000, that would be for a period of 6 weeks. That will give the agent also a time to have a bit of a break and not sit at the property for 4 weeks in advance, one after the other. They can at least have 1 or 2 breaks and go and show other houses as well. So I just wanted to mention that. I forgot to mention it previously.
Mm. And more of your questions and comments, especially on our Facebook page that I see. We've got Umenzi Butelezi saying, I think a minimalist setup would be apt for a staging project, but I think Vannesa is the expert. Any thoughts? Thoughts on going minimalist? I know that it is one of those things
we do stage minimalistic. We like to, if you walk into the house, it must invite you. So I don't like to, if it's a lounge, I don't like to put furniture in the walkway. It must be open. So if it's an L-shaped couch or a day bed, the day bed must try and be on the other side, not in the opening side of the room. So we don't clutter a house at all when we stage. Very much minimalistic, yes.
Mother Shingang is saying, I should make a career in this. There's some money to be made. So how do I become a home stager? So how do people become home stagers, Vannesa? I think it's also one of those career prospects that not a lot of people even thought was possible. Never mind actually then going all the way and whether joining a firm or even starting your own.
I'd like to say, I'm not going to tell you anything, but of course I will. You need to have a bit of capital. It does take a lot of money to build up your assets. You can do it cleverly. You can go and buy secondhand furniture and you can have it reupholstered. And get your style. It's very important that you must get your style. Get some inspiration from Pinterest, get inspiration from other home stagers, join home stagers on Facebook. And then, yes, the retailers don't give you furniture anymore because there's been a lot of damage to their furniture. So they prefer not to do that. They'll just say flat, no, they won't give you. So you've just got to build up your own stock. Decide what you want. You've got to have a 3-seater couch, 2-seater couch, day beds, L-shape. There are a lot of places that you can buy cheap beds. You go to the retailers that offer affordable linen, go white linen, spend money on scatters, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do it reasonably easy, but do it smart. Have a color palette that can talk to each other. bring texture into your place, use fake plants because they don't die, and then they're also affordable. What else is there? Secondhand furniture that you can recover. That's probably your best place to start, because furniture is very expensive and you do not get money for your secondhand furniture. So go on Facebook Marketplace and start buying furniture that you can use.
We've got Prince Jonas Mazibugo on our Facebook account asking, is there a company that offers sellers minor repairs or facelifts and deco for a percentage of the sale price? And we're speaking about this briefly, off air. So are there companies that, instead of, paying the upfront staging purchase price after the fact?
Unfortunately, that can't work, because, we can't do it at risk for the client. Maybe on the handyman work, yes, if you paint the house and that, maybe they can do it because the house will eventually sell. But as far as the home stages are concerned, we can't do that because we've got overheads, we've got people that work for us. I mean, I've got a truck, I've got 3 guys that work for me on a full-time basis, and their salaries need to be paid. If I do it on risk all the time, there will be no money coming in. I do believe in my product, and we've been very successful in it. But what if the house don't sell or doesn't sell, and then we don't get our money, which unfortunately we can't do. So the answer is no, we can't.
And I think when we look at that, the earlier point that you're making with somebody who may want to go into home styling, that is obviously after Martha's question. Perhaps, Vannesa, can you share with us some of the trends that we should probably be looking out for that are slowly on the rise when it comes to home staging? When I picked some of them up when I go to private property and you see some of the properties that are put on, I think one of the things that some developers unfortunately are doing is they also have a very similar house set. So, all the show houses are pretty much the same, and sometimes to the point where even different developments that are not by the same developer, everything almost looks the same. So as much as you want it to be neutral, but the moment it all just looks too similar, you also just struggle with it a little bit. Would you like to share with us just some key trends that you've picked up when it comes to especially home styling?
So I don't know how long, it's probably about 10 years, it's been very grey. Everything's been grey.
Yes. Yeah. Every tone of grey. We see every tone of grey. Yeah.
So, and that's going, which I don't know. I think there's mixed feelings about it. And what I'm going to say to you now is probably also going to have mixed feelings. Terracotta and the warmer colors are coming back. So the browns and the blues.
Beige is the new palette. Now everything is beige.
Exactly. Yeah. So the problem now is that obviously all our furniture is grey, and we have to recover everything. But slowly, they've been kind to us, where they'll take a taupe color and they'll put a grey next to it. So if you look at the Plascon, they always show the 2 colors. So you can still work with the greys and the taupes and the beiges. You can work with it together. So people must just start looking out for moving away from the greys. That's definitely, it's more trending now towards the warmer colors.
And I think one of the things, just from a stylistic perspective, is we're also, and I've seen the rise of this, the velvet type, chairs, or even the sofas, and just having them like that pop of color. Sometimes it might be whether it's a turquoisey or blue, but just adding a little bit of personality, not too much, but just to also give people at home a sense of, oh, this is actually even what's possible for you from a color perspective. So not having things to be too neutral. Just have that pop of color in some rooms or in one of the rooms, just so we're able to at least get a good sense of, what it would look like if we were to do the same. Now, but yes, you wanted to add on to that?
Sorry, I just wanted to say what we do is we bring in all the elements when we stage. We bring in steel, we bring in glass, textured fabrics. Sorry, I didn't understand your question probably. Textured fabrics, velvets, and a very important thing is it's got to be plants. It's got to be green. That also, and what I use as well quite a lot, and you'll see it on my photos on my Facebook, on my website, is I love black and white. Absolutely. And on photos, black and white really, really pops.
Yeah. I think monochrome is never going to go out of fashion.
No.
You're always going to be able to, work it and rework it in different ways. It still looks stylish. It still looks in season. It's not like one of those things that will think, this is going to go out of season. But Vannesa, before I let you go, any final tips for our viewers at home, especially the sellers? Because I think agents are able to get a good sense of, urging their clients to go the home staging route. But you obviously, as a seller, need to agree to it and see it as an investment and see it as a means for you to sell your property within a particular time frame and even within, a particular price point. Any final tips for our sellers at home, especially as we go towards the tail end of the year, when it comes to them using a home staging company in selling their property?
Make sure that the home stager knows what she's doing. A lot of home stagers are not trying to say things that I shouldn't say about my competitors. Their furniture is not high end enough. They look at what the furniture is. Is the furniture clean? Is it, as you say, is it on trend? Does it work with the style of the house, which is very important? You can't put a French look in a Tuscan house. It doesn't work. So just make sure, and also your curb appeal. So for the sellers, I just want to say, make sure that when the potential buyers approach the house, make sure that your garden is clean, that it looks fresh, that your front door is clean. Have some plants by your front door. Just make sure that in the stager that assists you with that they know what they're talking about from all aspects, from outside to inside.
Got a last question coming through here from Ulindisi Chabela on Facebook saying, such a brilliant idea. Do you work in partnership with estate agents?
I do. So I have a lot of estate agents that actually call on me and introduce me to their clients. I would say that in my experience, and I've been doing this now for 5 years, I would say only one estate agent actually paid for it, and it was for a development, and they knew they were going to make a lot of money, and the buyer or the seller or the developer didn't want to pay. So the sellers would like the estate agent to pay, but they can't, because they must know that the owners must always pay for the staging. So yes, I do work with a lot of estate agents. That is recurring business.
We're going to leave it there this evening, Vannesa. And if you want to get in touch with Vannesa, we have shared the link to the website down here below, so you can get in touch with them if you want to stage your own home, get a sense of the offering, and of course even the consultation, because I think you want to be able to do your research, and the website is fantastic. It will give you great insight into what you can expect. Vannesa, we're going to leave it there this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good evening.
And that is Vannesa De Villiers, who is the owner at Space Energy Home Staging. Wrapping up the Thursday edition of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Khumalo. I'll be back on your screens tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Rock's certainly closing off the week tomorrow. But it's a Thursday, so you can look forward to the Farming Podcast with Umbali Noko at 8 p.m. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.
That it?
you.